swap deal with Manchester United involving Jadon Sancho for either Ben Chilwell or Raheem Sterling. Victor Lindelof may be set to leave the club, with his partner posting an ominous message on Instagram last night. And Rabio reportedly desperate to join Manchester United in the final week of the window. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this morning's live show. But before we get into that, please do me one small favour. Smash a like on today's video. Let's try and see 1,000 likes on this episode. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe to the channel. We're just about to hit 40,000 subscribers. We're very, very close. So if this is your first time watching, make sure you get involved. Everyone is welcome. Right, let's start the show off quickly by talking about McTominay, because I know it's good to focus on things that are 100% looking like they're going to happen. So the latest on McTominay, this was coming from David Ornstein and Fabrizio, is that apparently Manchester United have agreed a 30 million euros deal with Napoli for Scott McTominay. Apparently McTominay is due to do his medical either tomorrow or Wednesday. There is one small detail that needs to be confirmed, and that is some sort of compensation package for Scott McTominay. Now, I did a video on this last night, and people were losing their heads, going absolutely crazy, saying, you know, he's supposed to be someone from the youth academy. Why is he asking for money? Obviously, it's annoying, but if that's in his contract, that's in his contract. So, I don't know. And there's loads of people saying that they think it's because he's not going to be paid the same amount of money at Napoli. But I just don't understand that logic, because at Manchester United, right, Scott McTominay earns £60,000 a week, which is one of the lowest earners in our squad. You go and look at Napoli's squad, right? So I don't think this is the case. You look at Napoli's squad. They pay Victor Osimhen $250,000 a week. They pay Lorenzo over $100,000 a week. They pay Politano over £100,000 a week. They've currently got over more than 12 players who are paid more than what McTominay is at the moment. So I don't really understand this whole logic where people are trying to tell me that McTominay, wouldn't be able to receive $60,000 a week at Napoli. Like, how? Surely they're buying him as a first team player. Surely they're buying him as a starting midfielder for their team. Why would he not get $60,000 a week? I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they won't give him that. Maybe they're going to give him $20,000, and that's why he wants a payoff. But it's a bit of a strange situation, because obviously Napoli are one of the better clubs in Italy, aren't they? They've obviously got a relatively decent amount of money. They've got lots of players who earn more than McTominay. Lots of players who I think will probably be benched and McTominay will start, and they're still going to earn more than McTominay. So I don't really know. This might just be Napoli trying to, feel like they're getting a good deal by giving him lower wages and making Manchester United pay the difference. It wouldn't surprise me, but let's put all of that aside. The positive thing is we're going to get 30 million euros for Scott McTominay. That will be 100% profit. That will massively help our PSR and our profit and sustainability situation, because obviously he's come through the youth academy. We've never paid a transfer fee for him. And the good thing about this is it will now allow us to go and sign Manuel Ugarte. Now, I just want to be very, very clear. I haven't got a bad word to say about McTominay. I think he is a model professional. I think he works hard. I think from what we've heard from managers, he's a pleasure to work with around the training ground. He's a good lad, all the rest of it. He runs. I've never doubted McTominay's desire. And there are some other players in this squad. Let's not bother naming names. Let's try and make it a positive show this morning. But there are quite a few other players in that squad who obviously we doubt their desire, their motivation, their reasons for being at the club, etc., etc. But McTominay isn't one of them. As I said, he's one of the lowest earners in the squad. He works hard. He doesn't complain. He'll happily sit on the bench for 80 minutes and then come on and impact a game. So it will be a little bit sad to see him go. But I think, when we have an opportunity to make 30 million straight profit euros, you have to take it. I'm sorry. He's got 1 year left on his deal. He turns 28 in October. So this is the perfect deal. I think it's a great move for McTominay, a great move for Manchester United, and I think he'll do well in Italian football. So I wish him all the best. No bad blood towards McTominay. He's not one of those players who are, you see some people screaming at the camera saying, get him out of my club, get him out of my club. You're not going to get that from me. I try and be level-headed, and I try and give you a balanced, more respectful. I don't personally think he's good enough for Manchester United to take us to the next level. But I think as a bench player, for coming off the bench for 5 minutes at the end of a game, he's quite a good asset to have. But you can't keep him just because of that. 30 million euros straight profit will go a long way for Manchester United. If you look at our biggest ever transfer fees, right, this pretty much just silences that argument. You go and look at our record sales, right? We know for a fact that Manchester United have been absolutely awful at selling players for a very, very long time. And all you have to do is go and look at our record departures. So if we sell McTominay for 30 million euros, which is what the deal has been agreed, that's David Ornstein's reported that, Fabrizio's reported that, all of the top journalists have reported that a 30 million euros fee has been agreed. Scott McTominay would then go down as the 6th highest transfer in Manchester United's history. That's absolutely mind-blowing, isn't it? He'll be right between Henrik Mkhitaryan at number 5 and Daniel James at number 6. The 6th biggest fee we'll ever receive for a player. So you have to take it. Like, Manchester United have been so bad at selling over the last decade and beyond that 30 million euros can't be shied away from. I appreciate the people who come in the comments and say, like, oh, he's a good squad player and all the rest of it. But I think in this situation, we have to move him on, really. Because the alternative is that you don't move him on. You then have to give him a new contract, probably wants a 3 or 4 year contract. And then McTominay will be here when he's 32. He's 28 in a month. He'll want a new contract next summer. He would literally be like a 31, 32-year-old and still be at Manchester United, and you wouldn't be able to sell him at that point. So McTominay to Napoli looks like it will happen. There's a big sell-on clause. I wish him all the best. I hope he goes and has a great career over in Naples. Amazing place to go. Incredible opportunity for him. So yeah, I wish him all the best. I think this is good for everybody. But you can let me know your thoughts. Like, how do you feel about the McTominay transfer at the moment? Are you happy with it? Do you think it's a good deal? Let me know what you think in the comments section below. I'd be really interested to see what you all have to say. So let's have a look. But I mean, most people in the chat this morning are saying, it's a good move for McTominay. I'm happy for him. There's no bad blood. And that's good. I'm happy for that. I'm happy that the mood is positive towards him. And, we're going to thank him for his time. We're going to thank him for his effort. We're going to thank him for his desire. And then we'll move him on. Okay, let's move on from that, though. And let's move on to... I can see Malks in the chat saying, what's going on with Manuel Ugarte? Where is he? It's going to be a domino effect, my friend. So, effectively, what will happen is McTominay will go to Napoli, 30 million euros in the bank, and then Manchester United will pull the trigger on Manuel Ugarte. I think it's been quite clear for a long time that that's what Manchester United have been trying to do. They want to sell players before they buy. And I think the longer they leave it in this window, the more likely that we'll get Manuel Ugarte for less. So there's a story that came out this morning that apparently Jean-Claude Blanc flew to Paris over the weekend. Obviously, Jean-Claude Blanc used to work for PSG many, many years ago. So he already has a good relationship with PSG. He was the CEO from 2011 till 2023. So he was the CEO there for like 2 years. Sorry, that's wrong. He was the CEO from 2011 until 2022. So he was the CEO for 11 years, Jean-Claude Blanc, at PSG. So he has a very, very good relationship. His last job before joining Manchester United was working at PSG. So he's got a great relationship with them, a great relationship with the owners. Apparently, Ineos sent Jean-Claude Blanc off to Paris to go for emergency meetings with Khalifa to try and get this deal over the line. Obviously, we know that there's some sort of bad blood between Ineos and Qatar because of obviously the Manchester United takeover situation. Qatar obviously not happy that they lost the bid to Jim Ratcliffe, which I think is fair enough. Because there was that saying, wasn't there, that was going around at the time that when Qatar entered the race to buy something, whether that's a football club, whether that's a basketball club, whatever it might be, they don't lose. Once they're in that race, they don't lose. And if they do lose, it's a disgrace for themselves. It's shameful. And they did lose. Jim Ratcliffe beat them to it. And obviously after that, the Glazers were trying to drag Qatar through the mud, weren't they? They were saying, they were never serious. They never actually had the money. And obviously Qatar didn't like that. And the Qatar were even going as far as saying they were going to take the Glazers to court for defamation, where you say something which isn't true and that effectively damages your brand or damages, the public's perception of you. So, yeah, there's obviously this bad relationship between the Glazers, Ineos and Qatar. And it seems like Jean-Claude Blanc is the kind of the interpretator, the one in the middle to try and get this one over the line. Manuel Ugarte will become a Manchester United player. I mean, it's so obvious to see. I mean, unless he fails his medical, unless something absolutely terrible happens, Yeah, it's going to happen. So the story here is Jean-Claude Blanc is understood to be using his relationship with PSG to help Dan Ashworth and the recruitment team over a deal for Manuel Ugarte. And then it goes on to say that apparently Jean-Claude Blanc flew to Paris to meet with Khalifa, who is the CEO, I believe, or the director. He's part of the ownership board anyway. He flew over there for emergency meetings to try and get this deal over the line. So it will happen this week. Obviously, the window closes on Friday. We've got, 4 days until that? So it looks like to me, McTominay, 30 million to Napoli, great deal for everybody. And then Manchester United will then effectively pull the trigger on Manuel Ugarte. Price-wise, we're still waiting to find out. I have a feeling it's probably going to be closer to 60 million euros now, but hopefully I'm wrong. I would be happy with 50 million euros plus 10 million in add-ons. I would be happy with that because then PSG can still tell everybody that they got 60 million euros, you know? I wouldn't have a problem with that necessarily. I think as long as we don't pay more than 50 million up front, I think it ends up being a good deal. And then the other 10 million in performance-based add-ons. 50 million euros is 42 million pounds. So if Man United can get him for that, 50 million euros, don't do this stupid loan deal. Just give them the money. 50 million euros, obviously we've got 30 for McTominay. Give them the money and then give them maybe 10 million in add-ons based on his performances. You know, I don't know, if we win the Premier League, they get 5 million. If we win the Champions League, whatever, you know, don't make them too easy to achieve, but performance-based add-ons. That's what I would do personally. I think that's what Manchester United will end up doing. I would be honestly stunned if they pay 60 million up front because that was what PSG were asking for 10 weeks ago. Before the Copa America, PSG were asking Manchester United for 60 million euros for Manuel Ugarte, okay? Whether you think that price is right or wrong is kind of irrelevant, to be honest. Obviously, you can have your opinion on how much he's worth, but the point I'm trying to make is PSG have been asking for 60 million for 10 weeks, and Manchester United have been negotiating, they tell us, for 10 weeks. And if they now end up paying what PSG asked for 10 weeks ago, that makes Manchester United look weak. That damages all of the work that Ineos have done this window to try and change the way that we're perceived on the transfer market. Because at the moment, clubs still see us as the Manchester United that were run by the Glazers, John Murtagh, Richard Arnold, Ed Woodward. They see us as the club that Manchester United come knocking at the door for one of our players and they add 20 million on top. That's still how clubs perceive us. This window has been different, in my opinion. We have done good business. We've got rid of lots of players. We have been quite ruthless, I think, in the players that have left. We've made some tough decisions. We've made some decisions which I don't think the Glazers would have done. Like, the Glazers would have kept Varane 100%. They would have rather have kept Varane than bought a new centre back. They would have. It's clear to see. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it kind of pans out. But I'd be interested to see how you guys feel about the transfer window so far. So let's have a little look at the players that have left. Let's see what people are saying in the chat quickly. I got a little bit sidetracked there. We've got over 1,100 people watching live now. If you could all do me a small favour and smash a like, that'd be really, really appreciated. Let's try and get to 1,000 likes by the end of today's video. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe. We're very, very close to 40k now. Remember, when we hit 40k, I will be giving out 2 Manchester United shirts. So make sure you go and do that. If you haven't already, go and subscribe. It's completely free content. Everyone is welcome. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the outgoings then, shall we, quickly? So let's have a little look at what we've done so far in relation to players leaving. I'm probably going to do a video at the end of the window where I kind of break down all of the fees. We get it, you know, we look at it all together and we kind of decide how the window's gone. But we can go through it, you know, in the meantime, just to have a little look at how we've done. So far, Manchester United have got rid of 12 players and have raised nearly, this doesn't include McTominay, by the way. If McTominay goes as well, it'll be 13 players. Let's include McTominay just for argument's sake. So we'll have raised nearly 100 million euros worth of sales and we'll have got rid of 13 players. Wages-wise, we'll have saved nearly £1 million worth of wages a week, which over the course of a season is about £52 million worth of wages. That's honestly mind-blowing. I think our wage bill was about 220 million last season, and it's now down to about 160, 170. So we've done really, really well in that regard, but we still need to bring in some more players, I think. I think we're still quite a long way away from being in the position where we need to be. And another player who looks like he could be leaving the club. Now, this one's a little bit strange. So I want you to take this with a pinch of salt. I want you to formulate your own opinion on this, okay? I can get the picture up on my screen if people want to see what it is. So let's get the picture up on the screen. Okay, here we go. Let me do a little screenshot of it. Give me 1 second, everyone. I wasn't planning to get this up on the screen, but I want people to see where this has come from and, be able to formulate their own opinion. So Victor Lindelof's wife, her name is Majlinson. I don't know. I think it's a Swedish name, so I apologize if I've pronounced it incorrectly. But anyway, Victor Lindelof's wife put up this post on Instagram last night. It was late last night. Let me see if I can... I haven't mastered the whole getting pictures up on my screen and stuff yet, so do bear with me. It's not something I usually do. Okay, there you go. You can see it, right? So she put this picture up on her Instagram last night. You see it over here. It was at about 10, 11 o'clock, and there was multiple different pictures, and it was her in an elevator, loads of suitcases, and then the caption is, "Here we go," in the... Now, obviously, we don't know exactly what this means. We know that Victor Lindelof is a player that Manchester United are actively trying to get rid of. This obviously sent social media into an absolute meltdown. People like Lindelof's going. It must be a deal agreed. Obviously, we know that Fenerbahce wanted him. We know that Jose Mourinho was really, really pushing to bring in Victor Lindelof. It still hasn't been clarified what exactly she means. Now, maybe she's got what she wanted. Maybe she put that post up knowing that it would get attraction, knowing it would get engagement, knowing it would get likes. I don't know. I have no idea. I didn't even know who she was until last night when I saw this post. And maybe that's what she was out to do. Maybe she was... she put this story out there just to, to try and get a bit of interest on her page. I've got no idea. People are saying that she's gone on holiday. I don't think Lindelof would be able to go on holiday in the middle of the season. But yeah, I don't know. So we'll wait and see what happens with that one. I thought it was an interesting one. I thought it was something worth discussing. We know that Man United are actively trying to move Lindelof on. We know that apparently his injury isn't that bad, so he could still be sold. 1 year left on his deal. For me, Lindelof is definitely somebody that that should be moved on before the end of the window. But yeah, I would be very, very happy if he moves on. But people are saying that he might just be going on holiday. Maybe, yeah, maybe. I'm not saying either or. I'm just saying that this is what's gone out there. She's obviously done it either because Lindelof's leaving or because she knows it will get engagement. So either option, she's kind of got what she wanted to achieve, didn't she? So yeah, we'll wait and see what happens with that one. But for me personally, there's not really a debate to be had. Victor Lindelof has to go. He has to. He's got 1 year left. He's 30 years of age. He's on big wages. He has no future at Manchester United. And I think, honestly, if we could get rid of Lindelof, McTominay, Sancho, Hannibal, Eriksen in this last few days of the window, our window would go from maybe a 6 or a 7 to an 8 or a 9 easily if you got rid of those 5 players. And I know people will be sat there. The comment section's now just going to be full of people saying Marcus Rashford should go. Marcus Rashford should go. But on this channel, I always try and be reasonable. I always try and be non-toxic. I always try and be non-reactive, right? Marcus Rashford probably doesn't have a future at Manchester United. Okay, I agree with you there. So I agree with you 100%. But you can only sell players when there's somebody who wants to buy them. And at the moment, there is nobody who wants to buy Marcus Rashford. That's a fact. Otherwise, someone would have come in for him. Someone would have seen the situation at Manchester United and thought, maybe there's an opportunity here. Let's go in with a bid. There were stories that apparently Saudi clubs were looking at him, 100 million euros bids and all the rest of it. But I don't know. I'm sure clubs in Saudi would like to bring Marcus Rashford to Saudi. But do you think Marcus Rashford would go to Saudi? Maybe he would. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, at this moment in time, there is nobody actively pursuing a deal for Marcus Rashford. So for people to continually tell me that we need to sell Marcus Rashford, it's I agree with you, but you can only sell when there's somebody willing to buy. And the players I've just mentioned, the Eriksens, we've got Anderlecht and Ajax who want him. Hannibal, you've got Burnley, Rangers, Celtic, who are all interested in him. Lindelof, obviously Fenerbahce want him. McTominay, Napoli want him. And Sancho, we'll talk about in a minute. You've got Chelsea, Juventus, as well as other clubs. So there is genuinely interest in those players. So you can see how they would leave in the final week of the window. Whereas for us to demand Rashford to leave by Friday, it's just not going to happen. It's not realistic. Should he be dropped from the starting 11? Yes. And that's something that's within Erik ten Hag's ability. Maybe it isn't, though. Maybe, as some people suspect, there is some sort of clause in Rashford's contract that says he has to play a certain amount of games. That is a possibility. We don't know the answer. So, yeah, it is a strange situation. And I know loads and loads of people want, Rashford and other people to go. But yeah, there's not really too much we can do. See what people are saying in the chat. Malp says, imagine if Erik ten Hag starts Rashford against Liverpool. If Erik ten Hag starts Rashford against Liverpool, right, I think then we have to assume that he has something in his contract that says if he's fit, he has to play. There is no other explanation, I don't think, at this point. Yeah? Garnacho, when he comes off the bench, makes an impact. Although I would say this. I do think that Garnacho is really, really good as an impact player. But so is Marcus Rashford. Marcus Rashford coming off the bench is amazing, I think, because players are tired. Obviously, he's fast. He's got, I just don't think from the beginning of the game he has enough impact, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. You might disagree. Okay, let's do a poll on Jadon Sancho then, shall we? So we're going to do this. Would you swap Jadon Sancho for Sterling? Yeah, but just to go back on that, there must be something in his contract. Because remember, right, when Manchester United gave him the new deal, he'd just come off the back of a 30-goal season. His best ever season for Manchester United. So at that point, could you really blame Manchester United? I think Rashford had 1 year left on his deal. He just had a 30-goal season. PSG wanted to sign him. They gave him massive wages. Can you really blame them at that point that he has some sort of thing saying that, if he's fit, he has to play or something? I don't know. But yeah, we'll wait and see. I don't know. It's very, very difficult. And at the end of the day, like, I want Marcus Rashford to come good. I like Marcus Rashford. I think he's a quality player. I just don't think his head's in the right place. And I don't know how we solve that. There's not anything me or you can do, really, to get Marcus Rashford's head back in the right place. Is it the Sancho situation? Is he unhappy with the manager? We don't know. And I'm sure in years to come, it will all come out. You can already see it happening, right? I can already see it happening. And I don't want to say it because I don't want to be like negative, but if Erik ten Hag gets sacked, say, in the next couple of years, you can already imagine the stories will start coming out that he fell out with Rashford, blah, blah, blah. Or do you know what I mean? There'll be all of these kind of narratives that come out that it wasn't as happy behind the scenes as everyone thought. Or like, do you know what I mean? I don't know. I just feel like there is something weird still going on at Manchester United with some of the players. Like Jadon and Marcus Rashford are best friends, aren't they? We know that. And Jadon Sancho had a public dispute with the manager and is now not being selected. What do you think Marcus Rashford and Jadon Sancho talk about when they're hanging out? Like, do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that they constantly are slagging off Erik ten Hag and that's the only thing they talk about. But imagine your best friend, right, falls out with somebody publicly. Like, it would be difficult for them. I don't know. It's hard to work out an analogy, but you get what I mean here, don't you? It's a difficult one. But let's move on to Jadon Sancho then. We're already talking about Sancho, so let's talk about him now. So obviously this story broke last night from multiple different people. We've got The Telegraph, we've got Sky Sports, we've got all of the kind of mainstream media were reporting that apparently Chelsea have inquired about signing Jadon Sancho. And apparently Jadon Sancho would like to go to Chelsea. Jadon Sancho wants to leave. We know that. He doesn't want to be here. And apparently Chelsea have offered us Raheem Sterling in exchange. Now, I want you to answer me this. Would you swap Raheem Sterling for Jadon Sancho? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Now, my immediate answer is no. Okay? But Raheem Sterling isn't a bad player. And I don't think he should be disrespected. If you actually look at his stats over his time in the Premier League, right? He averages nearly a goal or an assist every other game. Raheem Sterling over his time in the Premier League, right? That doesn't mean that we should sign him, though. I just want people to be respectful towards Sterling. The thing I don't like about Sterling is he's nearly 30. He's on 300 grand a week. Obviously, he's played for Liverpool and Man City, which I think, I mean, that's not the be-all, end-all, but it still is a little bit strange, isn't it? To have a player that's gone from Liverpool to Man City to Chelsea and then to Manchester United. I mean, maybe it works. Maybe he comes and does amazingly. He scored more goals than Antony did last season. He scored more goals than any of our other wingers did last season. He scored more goals than Rashford did last season. So, we can all disrespect him and say that he's not good enough and all the rest of it. But if you have a look at his stats for last season, right? He got 12 goals and assists in 31 games. In all competitions, he got 20 goals and assists in 40 games, right? 20 goals and assists. Go and have a look at Marcus Rashford for last season, who's 4 years younger. Bear in mind as well that Chelsea had just as bad a season as we did. And Raheem Sterling got a goal or an assist every other game across all competitions. You compare that with, say, Marcus Rashford, right? As an example, let's have a look. Marcus Rashford got 14 goals and assists in 43 games. So he got 6 less than Sterling did. You have a look at Garnacho. Now, the first thing I said was, no, I don't want Raheem Sterling. But I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here. I always try and be reasonable. I always try and, look at both sides of the argument on this channel. Like, I try and see it from both sides and try and see why, we're linked to these types of players. So last season, Garnacho played 10 more games than Sterling in all competitions, and he got 5 less goal and assists. So if you're looking at it based on stats, which I know most people don't, but Chelsea had an awful season last year, terrible, just as bad as us. And Raheem Sterling got more goals and assists than any of our other attacking players did. I think that even includes Højlund as well. So I would be stunned if Manchester United do this deal, though. I'd be absolutely stunned. It doesn't make sense. He's on huge wages. He's not the right age profile. And for me personally, we need to sell Jadon Sancho. We need to get cash. We need money. Like, let's rephrase this, right? If Jadon Sancho left now, right? Say we sell Jadon Sancho to PSG. Would Raheem Sterling be on our target list? No, of course he wouldn't. So why would we do a swap deal? Why would we swap Jadon Sancho for Raheem Sterling if we had the money we wouldn't ever want to buy him? That's the way that you have to look at it. Is Raheem Sterling the number one target? No. It's just Chelsea trying to get rid of a player they don't want and to bring in a better player in Jadon Sancho. That's the situation here. So, yeah, for me, it's a definite no for Raheem Sterling. I would be very, very surprised. David says, what about a loan swap deal for a year? I still wouldn't do that, to be honest, mate. I don't want Jadon Sancho to be loaned out. The problem I have with Sancho being loaned out is he's only got 2 years left on his deal, I believe. So if we loan him out now, he'll come back next summer and then effectively he'll refuse to leave and he'll go for free. So, yeah, I wouldn't loan Jadon unless it's got an obligation to buy, because otherwise I think we'll get stung at the end of it. But we've got over 1,400 people watching now, guys. We've only got 300 likes, though. If you could do me a little favour and hit the like button, that'd be really appreciated. Let's try and get to 1,000 by the end of the video. And do make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. As I said, we are on the road to 40k. Once we hit 40k, I'm going to give out 2 Manchester United shirts. So go and hit subscribe now if you haven't already. So yeah, that's the situation on Jadon Sancho. Obviously, get your comments in. Let me know your thoughts. Should Manchester United do the swap deal? The other player we've been offered is Ben Chilwell. I mean, I'm not even going to bother talking about Ben Chilwell. Ben Chilwell's injury record is worse than Luke Shaw's, and Luke Shaw has missed 50% of Manchester United games since he joined from Southampton, 7-8 years ago. So for me personally, Ben Chilwell's not even worth discussing. Like, why would we bring in a more injury-prone player when we already have 2 injury-prone left-backs? Like, it's completely illogical. Now, if I was to bring in any player from Chelsea, okay, this is what I wanted to do for the next bit of the show. Now, obviously, there's people like Cole Palmer, but like that's not realistic. So I want to look at the realistic names. I want to look at what actually Manchester United could potentially ask for. Now, my most realistic option is Carney Chuk. I can never say this guy's name. Carney Chukwuemeka. That would be my number one option. Central midfielder, exactly the kind of player that we need to strengthen our team. 20 years of age, can play as a central midfielder or as an attacking midfielder. He would be my preferred option. I think he would be a really, really good player to swap for Jadon Sancho. Or if I was to go a little bit more adventurous, I'd probably say like Lavia. Like if we could get Lavia. Again, I don't know whether Chelsea would even be willing to do this because Lavia is actually playing in their team at the moment. But those are like the only 2 players I think that I would take. Obviously, as I said, they're not going to give us Cole Palmer. They're not going to give us like a Moises Caicedo. So there's not really any point discussing those types of names. But in the more realistic area, I would say Romeo Lavia is probably a fair swap, probably around the same kind of value as Sancho, or Chukwuemeka, maybe plus a little bit of money, because obviously he's still quite young and not worth the same amount as Sancho. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this one progresses. I think Jadon Sancho's as good as gone. I just hope that Manchester United can agree with either a loan with an obligation to buy or a permanent deal. I don't want any one-season loans and then him coming back next season. Like, the Jadon Sancho saga needs to end now. This needs to be at the end of it. By the time Friday's deadline comes around, I don't want to ever have to talk about Jadon Sancho again. Because if he goes off to Chelsea and starts doing well, the narrative is going to be Erik ten Hag doesn't know what he's doing, blah, 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 blah. Like, him going and doing well is almost as toxic as him staying, if that makes sense. But only if he's still our player. So if we facilitate Jadon Sancho to move to Chelsea on loan, and we pay half of his wages, and then he goes to Chelsea, does amazingly, and they finish above us, we look stupid. He has to go on a permanent deal, whether that's a loan with an obligation to buy, a swap deal, you know, a permanent transfer up front. I don't really care what variation of it is. But the fact of the matter is, he has to go now. Like, he has to go, and this needs to be the end of Jadon Sancho, Erik ten Hag. Yeah, it just has to. We can't talk about this anymore. Let's see what people are saying in the chat then. People are saying, I want Cole Palmer. I mean, of course we want Cole Palmer, but we're not going to get Cole Palmer. What else have we got here? Al says Lavia is the best option we could go for. Yeah, I would say so. Steve says, do you reckon we could really get Lavia? Well, I mean, they want Jadon Sancho. Romeo Lavia's transfer value on Transfer Market is 35 million euros, right? I think Transfer Market is relatively accurate. By like, that's probably his actual value. Jadon Sancho's value on Transfer Market is 30 million euros, which I think is probably about right as well. You know, 30 million euros is probably about fair. So I would say that Lavia and Sancho are near enough probably worth about the same amount of money. Obviously, they're two different players who play in two completely different positions, but I don't think it would be an unreasonable deal. Whether Chelsea would agree to it, I don't know. I would probably say no. As we've seen, they're much more likely to offer us people like Ben Chilwell and Sterling, which neither of which I want. It's a no from me. Massive no. Felicity says, I'd swap him for Frankie de Jong at Barcelona. Yeah, I mean, I'd do that, but that probably won't happen either. Barcelona still can't even register Dani Olmo. They signed him 2 weeks ago. They've played 2 La Liga games and they still can't register him. So I don't think Barcelona are going to be doing any business now, to be honest. They're in an absolute mess. They're in a worse mess than anybody else. They literally can't register Dani Olmo, their big signing of the summer, because they don't have enough money. So I don't think Barcelona will go in for Sancho because obviously even his wages will be a lot for them to pay. Paul says Chelsea paid 50 million for Lavia. Chelsea paid 120 million for Enzo Fernandez. That doesn't mean he's worth that, you know? Man United paid 100 million for Anthony. That doesn't mean he's worth it. Like, teams pay overinflated prices. They do bad deals. So just because Chelsea paid 50 million for Lavia doesn't mean he's worth 50 million. Manchester United paid 73 million for Sancho. Is he worth that? No. So I think, you know, what price a club paid for a player is kind of irrelevant unless they do really well. If they do really well, then maybe you ask for a bit more. But Jadon Sancho and Lavia, last season Lavia was injured all year. He had one good game, I think, in the first game against Man City in the Premier League, and now he seems to be out of the team again. I don't know why. Maybe there was a slight injury. I'm not sure. But the point I'm making here, based on the statistical data from websites like Transfer Market, which seem to be relatively reliable, their actual market value, they do this based on stats. It's data. It's a computer that generates this number, is that they're both worth about 30 to 35 million. Okay? So that's where that kind of, you know, discussion came from. But let's see what else people are saying. Steve says, what is wrong with Sterling? What is wrong with Sterling? He's nearly 30. He's on 300 grand a week. And we've got Rashford, Garnacho, Anthony and Ahmad. Where does he play? Who does he start over? You can't have a 300 grand a week player sat on the bench. I don't think there is anything wrong with Sterling. I think he's a decent footballer. You know? Like, he's a good player. I like Sterling. But I'm just saying that, when you factor in all of those things that I just mentioned, swapping Jadon Sancho for Raheem Sterling, it's just not a good deal, I don't think, at all. Let's have a look at the poll. So 25% of people would swap Sancho for Sterling. 75% wouldn't. Fair enough. Fair enough. What else have we got? Let's have a look. Let's move on to Rabio quickly then before I wrap up today's video. So in relation to Adrian Rabiot, apparently he is waiting to join Manchester United. I mean, do you know what's crazy? Adrian Rabiot doesn't have a club. The season has started. Most clubs across Europe have played 2 games now. And Adrian Rabiot is still without a team. So this is coming out from multiple different people saying that apparently Rabiot would love to play for Manchester United, but the key priority for United is Ugarte. So it's more like Rabiot wanting United opposed to United wanting Rabiot. So I don't know. I would sign Adrian Rabiot. I think at this stage, we need to strengthen as much as we can. And I know some people are like, I don't like Rabiot, or the rest of it. That's fine. I get it. He's not my preferred option, but he's available for nothing. He's a free agent, and he wants to come to Manchester United. Maybe that's because he wants money. I don't know. We have no idea. Maybe he's a boyhood Manchester United fan. I don't know the answer to the question. But the fact of the matter is, right, our midfield at the moment, in my opinion, is weak. It's very, very weak still. Kobe Mainoo, generational talent, brilliant. But is he 19 or 20? I don't know. I think he's 20 now. But Kobe Mainoo can't be playing every single week for Manchester United at this point in his career. Because if we do that, he's only 19. I've just checked. He's 19 years of age. If we do that, he will probably burn out, and by the time he's 22, 23, people will, he won't be the player that he is now. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but the point I'm making here is that we need to have depth in that midfield, and our depth at the moment is McTominay, who's going to Napoli, Hannibal, who's leaving, Eriksen, who should be leaving, and who else do we even have then? Mason Mount? I think that's literally it, isn't it? Like, our midfield, technically, at the moment, and this isn't me being, toxic or dramatic. Our midfield at the moment is worse than it was last season. And that's a fact. Amrabat's gone. McTominay's about to leave. Hannibal's gone. Or is going to leave. Like, we've lost 3 or 4 midfielders. And at the moment, we haven't signed anybody. And our midfield was terrible last season as well. So, yeah, we desperately need to strengthen that midfield. I still think we need 2 midfielders. I think Manuel Ugarte and Rabio. Yes, Rabio is not my number one option. But there's 3 days left until the window closes. He's available for nothing and he wants to join. Like, look at our midfield. Look at our options now. You've got Toby Collier, who's 19, probably not ready to start or play in the Premier League yet. He might be soon, but he isn't at the moment, I don't think. McTominay, who's leaving. And then that's it. That's literally all you've got. You've got Casemiro, whose legs have gone. Mainoo, who already looks like he's been played too much and looks like he's a little bit tired and off the pace a bit. I'm not criticising him. If anything, I'm backing him. I think Mainoo's quality, but he looks a little bit tired. Would we all agree there? And he looks like he needs to, have somebody else who can rotate with him. And I don't think Eriksen's that player. So, yeah, for me personally, you need to go and get Ugarte and Rabio. Like, go and do that now. Like, you have to, I think. Because otherwise, if you let McTominay go, you've just swapped McTominay for Ugarte, which is obviously an improvement, but Amrabat's gone as well. Hannibal's gone. You are losing your squad depth there. So, yeah, I would bring in Rabio, to be honest. I think we need as much strength as possible in that midfield. God, there's loads of comments coming in today. Everyone's... people saying Toby Collier. I mean, obviously Toby Collier's a prospect, isn't he? But it's completely fair to say that at this moment in time, our midfield is worse than it was last season. 100%. We've got less players, less options. Obviously, Manuel Ugarte looks like he's going to come in, but Darren says, my guess about Rabio is that he has a big money offer from Saudi, but is waiting for an offer from a European club. Yeah, fair enough. Gono says, don't be dramatic and say we lost Hannibal. Do you say Amrabat is way better than Collier? Probably, yeah, of course. Is Amrabat better than Collier? I don't understand, how people can... We have this obsession in our fan base, right? Where the fan base attach themselves to, a young player. right? And all of our hope for the season is on this one player. And everyone's like, Toby Collier is the answer. Amad Diallo is the answer. If he plays, we'll win everything. And we've seen, 45 minutes of Toby Collier in pre-season in a pointless friendly that meant nothing. And, we're expecting him to be... What are we expecting him to be? Like, I don't know. I just don't understand it. It confuses me. Manuel... what's he called? Amrabat is a 28-year-old in his prime. And we're comparing him with Toby Collier, who's literally played like 45 minutes of professional football for Manchester United. Like, I'm sure Toby Collier will become a better player in years to come, But at this moment in time, we've lost Amrabat. McTominay's going. Hannibal's going. I'm not saying that these are good players. I'm just saying that we have lost depth in that midfield. And that's why I'm saying that I think we need 2 midfielders. What happens if Kobe Mainoo gets injured next week? Who plays then? What happens if... Do you know what I mean? Like, we're 1 or 2 injuries away from having like Eriksen and... I mean, I was going to say McTominay, but McTominay's going to be gone. So, yeah. Paul says Rabio is a free agent so he can sign after Friday. Okay, fair enough. I didn't know that. I thought it had to be done before Friday. So what, can Rabio sign at any point? It doesn't have to be in the transfer window? Or is there like a deadline for free agents? Damien says get Rabio on a 3-year contract with reasonable wages and let him go in 2 seasons for 20 million. Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. It feels like a good point to end today's show. Thank you very much for joining me. Great to have so many of you with us today. Really, really appreciate it. I'll be back later on this evening for another live video, so make sure you're there for that. Please make sure to hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. This has been Daily Red Devil. I'll speak to you all later. Bye for now.